On this episode of Modern Greaser, we remove the engine from a VW squareback, rebuild the engine in a living room, which we end up riding through the living room because we can, end up practicing our techniques of crawling out from underneath the car, install the engine successfully, and end up driving. So this is the VW squareback that we're pulling the motor out of today. I'll do a little walk around on it. To start the process of the engine removal, you first have to have the car at least 18 inches in the air to be able to slide the engine out from under it. You also want to use a ratchet strap to support the transaxle while the engine is out. After removing a few pieces, the engine is light enough to be set in the back of a pickup truck by just 2 people.
Okay, so Arthur Fonzarelli, he had his motorcycle in his living room. So if you have a VW engine in your living room, does that make you like the Bohemian Fonzarelli or something?
If you say so.
But can I ask you a sincere question?
Go for it.
How does it feel to be the envy of most men? I mean, like, most guys want a freaking engine in their living room. I mean,
I don't know, where else am I gonna build it? Why wouldn't I build it in my living room?
you know, I never thought about it that way, I guess. I mean, it's kind of genius. And by kind of, I mean, it is genius.
Out of the weather, out of the heat.
You can go in there and get snacks in your living room. I see that's like snack.
Cookies and air conditioning and engines.
Perfect. That's how you do that with your knees, like this, right?
Now there's a VW
Like a
motor.
curtsy?
Now there's a VW motor on my floor.
Hold on. Can I ride that? Or do you want to ride it? Do you want to be the first one to ride a VW motor inside of somebody's living room? Can I push you around like a little scooter? It's your motor. Why wouldn't you? William is going to be the first man ever to ride a Volkswagen engine through his living room. Whee!
I think I like the way it's sitting.
Let's bring her up.
All right, will do. So what's your technique for getting out? They call that the backwards worm? Yeah. That is gonna scare a lot of women and children, I think. So mine is, when I come out, I like backwards walk with my arms like a crab.
The crab crawl.
So William, I have one question for you. Now that your engine is completely installed, do you regret riding your engine through your living room?
No.
No, I think the correct answer is 9! That's alright, carbon monoxide's not the best.
So in order to fire this engine for the very first time, we had to make sure that we had top dead center on the compression stroke. This engine, there's a mark on the crankshaft pulley. You need to spin the crankshaft around until that mark is lined up on the timing mark. And then you also have to make sure that your rotor is pointing towards the number 1 cylinder. So your rotor, you have to make sure that Well, wherever that rotor's at, if you can't move it or whatnot, that you can change your wiring position around so that it's pointing towards the number 1 cylinder. However, when we started doing it, we thought we had top dead center on the compression stroke. It was actually top dead center on the exhaust stroke. So we had a nice little backfire, and then we discovered that we'll just spin it another 360 degrees and it fired right up. Now, on the break-in process, since this motor was rebuilt, in order for it to be broken in properly, you have to let it run and variate the idle for about 20 minutes. Actually wear out the cam lobe so you don't variate that. So once the train leaves the station, you got to keep going with it. So we got it running, and actually when we got it running, it was making some weird noises. And it turned out that the fan blades, since this is an air-cooled motor, had some rivets that were kind of loose, and even though all the parts were rebuilt and things like that, there were still some of the old used parts, so everything had been taken back apart and the rivets had been tack welded into place, and now it actually runs good. There's no noise, it runs like a top. So it was successful. And talk about pulling motors out of cars, this has to be one of the easiest motors, and it was very friendly to work on. It's very simple. All the same rules applied to a Ford V8 that they did with this. And during the break-in process and trying to find top dead center, I went back to my memory of doing it on the last car, which is a 390 Ford. And all the same rules apply, so don't be afraid of German cars. It was the same simplistic nature. And the best part is that this thing doesn't have a radiator, so it's not going to spew hot antifreeze all over your legs.
On the break-in process of the GTO, when the lower radiator hoses blew and it spewed hot antifreeze all over my legs and I had second-degree burns, blisters started forming immediately. So I was very happy to work on a car that was air-cooled. One thing I failed to mention, it is a 1972 Volkswagen Squareback Type 3. The Beetle was Type 1, the bus was Type 2, and yes, this one that you rarely see is the Type 3.